Welcome to episode 38 of the Practice Squad, a show where we talk about football, shoot the breeze, and make even the replacement refs cringe. I'm your host and fourth string quarterback, Jeremy, joined each and every week by my co host and backup long snapper, Joseph. How's it going, man?
Congratulations to the Lakers. About to womp on the Heat. Oh, wait, wrong sport. Sorry.
Oh,
Wrong
oof,
show.
oof, oof. Duncan on our NFL show to talk about the NBA, huh? So we're live right here on YouTube every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Pacific. If you like what you hear and want to support us, don't hesitate to like, share, and if you're feeling extra generous, subscribe. You can like, share, and subscribe even if you think you could run this show better than us. This week we've got games to talk about, rules to laugh about, commentators to make fun of, and some wild predictions to make. So let's go ahead and dive right into our first segment of the night, our games of the week. This week we're actually going to be talking about 3 games, so a special treat for you guys. The first one is our game of the week, which was Chiefs at Ravens. And I'm going to have to walk back something I said last week, which is that this was going to be one of the greatest games of the week of the season, and boy was I wrong. um, this was a steamrolling. The Chiefs were in control of this one the whole way through. I mean, Mahomes had his way in the air. It just looked like every Chiefs receiver was faster than whatever defender was unlucky enough to be covering them. Mahomes never got sacked. Jackson threw for 97 yards. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Man, it's hard to even know where to start with this one. This was just a kind of a beatdown, and the scoreboard is actually almost a little bit deceptive because how did the Ravens even score 20 points? I barely even remember.
Well, one was a kickoff return. So that was just
Oh,
very
that's right. That's
fast.
right. The kickoff
Yeah.
return for the touchdown. The first of the season, actually.
Oh, yeah. So this was a beatdown. And another way, it's weird. So definitely in one way, it didn't reflect a close game. But actually, in another way, it might have. So let me explain. I noticed there were several plays on the Ravens end that if they had gone right, this would have been a great close game. There were a lot of drop passes, a lot of passes that Jackson could have made that were probably better, and a lot of drop passes that his receiver should have caught. And if those catches were made on some third downs and one was a touchdown pass to Andrews, the tight end, this game would have been closer. So just so close and missing them. But even if they had gotten them, I think the Chiefs would have did what they had to have done. And Jackson with under 100 passing yards is no bueno. So overall, yeah, Chiefs are always in control. And Mahomes, I was texting Jeremy earlier that Mahomes looked like he was having fun, which is dangerous because if he's having fun, like, watch out, NFL. He looked, honestly, his pocket presence and patience, he looked like Tom Brady out there the other night.
I
So,
mean, you can afford to do that when your O line is a bunch of cheaters. So, um, yeah, no, I saw a couple of pretty blatant holds that weren't called in that game. But even if they had been, I think the Chiefs still would have won. The Ravens just looked kind of off. They didn't have an answer for any of those receivers. I mean, I actually thought the Ravens secondary last year I think was actually pretty good, and they have Marcus Peters. The thing is, it just looked like the their pass rush, the Ravens pass rush was not, and the pass rush of most teams for that matter is just not good enough to offset the speed of the Chiefs receivers. Like, right, like they can get separation well before any edge rusher or even interior rusher gets pressure on Mahomes. And so there's just these wide open guys. You see it game after game where Mahomes, who has a cannon, just chucks it down the field to some guy that has 10 yards separation. And it just makes defenders look like they all run, 4.8 40s or something. Um, so, I mean, it's scary. I mean, I think the Chiefs were registered last year as having the fastest receiving and running back core on average in the NFL. And it certainly shows in games like that when the defenders just can't even keep up, let alone actually defend passes. And then the other comment I was going to make was that Jackson I mean, we needed a game to see what he looks like when he's off, and that was it, right? Less than 100 passing yards. He just wasn't hooking up, syncing up with his receivers, and he actually did run pretty well. I think he had, was it 9 carries for 87 yards? So
83.
yeah, so he was definitely gashing them at times, but it just, when you can't get into a passing rhythm, you can't rely on the running game for everything, because it's a passing league. So it just, yeah, it was just a bad day for the Ravens, and I think this might turn into uh one of those I don't want to say rivalries, but like just a matchup over the years where the Chiefs just kind of own the Ravens, because we've seen it twice now, and these teams are going to be good for a while. So we'll see what happens in coming years, but it's one of those games every year that you kind of like look forward to, because it's a big showdown. So did you have anything else on this one?
I just wanted to add that the Ravens do have a really good defense, a top defense, but they just could not put enough pressure on Mahomes and the offensive line. And if what we saw was better chemistry and clicking with Mahomes and his receivers, and the defense actually giving pressure to Jackson, watch out for the Ravens are really going to have to improve how to protect Jackson, because he looked rushed. He didn't look like he could survive the Chiefs pass rush, which I can't believe I'd ever say that. So
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. All right, so our next game is the Rams at Bills game. Bills took that one 35-32 in a last minute epic comeback. So I'll let you lead off with your comments on this one, Joseph.
So just in general, Rams aren't as bad as I thought they were going to be, but that was a crazy comeback. But I want to talk mostly about Josh Allen. People gave him some big hype last year just because of his size, what he could do, and he definitely was a good runner. And he has really kind of stepped into that potential. I believe he's climbed the ladder from a lower tier quarterback. He's now tier 2. He's not tier 1. I think he could be there, but he's now officially a tier 2 quarterback, and it'd be exciting to see where he goes with his career. He made some big plays in this game.
Yeah, and he showed that he can be clutch when it matters, and that's a big thing that you're looking for in young developing quarterbacks. And that was a skill that very few quarterbacks, honestly, in this league have. And I'd say that Wilson and Mahomes are the two prime examples of that. There are others that can do it, but they're kind of the ones that are now famous for, or in my case, infamous for, being able to do that. There were a couple of plays I wanted to talk about that were a bit sticky. So there was a play, I don't know what quarter this was in. I think this was maybe third quarter, early fourth quarter. Allen threw a pass. His receiver, I actually think it might have been his tight end,
Yeah,
caught the ball, but then the defender kind of made it look like he simultaneously caught it. And then there was an OPI because of a push off, I think. And they called the OPI, and then they said in the same, like the referee that was announcing the OPI said, like, offensive pass interference, offense number, whatever. The result of the play is an interception. And I was like, wait, what? How does that even happen? How does a like, I don't even understand how that happens, because first of all, if it's an OPI, then it's a penalty that needs to be declined. And secondly, the defender didn't catch the ball. So right. Nothing about that made sense to me. I think the OPI in the replay was fair. So it should have been a whatever it is, I think it's a 10-yard penalty, redo the down. But that was not an interception.
No, Croft caught it like it was clearly in his hands. He caught it, he came down with it, and then the defender latched onto the ball. At the very worst, they both had equal possession of the ball at the end, but Croft caught it. The receiver just got around it. So that has to go to the receiver. That's dumb. So,
right.
Big play there. Glad it didn't cost him the game. But another play that did cost him. You can go to the next big one or something else.
No, go ahead.
No, I forgot. Like, you had 3 plays, and I
Oh
forgot.
yeah. So I did. There was a pass interference at the very end. It was after. So Allen converted a 3rd and 22 to Cole Beasley and a 3rd and 25 to Stephon Diggs. Which, by the way, talk about that pickup. That was a great pickup for them. And then there was a PI on. I think it might have been Johnson.
4th and 9, I think.
Yeah, that put the ball at the 3. And then a couple plays later, the Bills punched it in for the go-ahead touchdown. And the replay made it look like the defender was making the legal 5-yard contact from the line of scrimmage, and then it looked like maybe he had scuffled a yard or two beyond that, but then it looked like he released reasonably before the ball would have gotten there, and the receiver also was pretty clearly did not know where the ball was going, right? Like he had turned himself around and did not know where the ball was. So to me, that was maybe you could argue uncatchable. So technically, if you go more than 5 yards with contact, that is technically a foul. So I can't blame the refs for technically, enforcing that, even if they don't enforce it plenty of times. Cough, cough. Seattle secondary for like 2013 through 2016. But the issue to me was more just that it wasn't catchable, and I have a problem with PI calls on balls that are not catchable. Not catchable even if you can like trace what the trajectory of the receiver would have been had there not been contact.
So, I'll try to get the other side here. I believe Peyton Manning used to do this, and I'm sure all the great quarterbacks did it. When you see a pass interference, you throw the ball in that direction. I'm sure he was going there, but if there hadn't been pass interference, who knows if Allen would have made the throw the right way. Kind of threw it in the direction, possibly because there was a PI. I think it was a pretty obvious PI. And so the ball is not catchable if it's intended to go where he threw it. But what if he's throwing it when the PI is occurring, and that's why he couldn't catch it, but it would have been a catchable ball? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So not saying that, I don't know if that's allowed, if that should be the way it's done, but if it's not a PI that's called and he throws it at him, maybe it gets picked off, or maybe they think maybe they're less likely to call it. I don't know, but it was iffy, but I think it was enough to call it, and it wasn't like the Rams where it's like, oh, that's not at all PI, and it's like, okay, it wasn't incredibly uncatchable. It was in the area, and maybe it wasn't catchable because you were holding the guy. So that's all my comments I'll have there.
Right, and that's a fair point. I think that's a fair comeback, right? Is that a ref can't be forced to, or it can't be the ref's job to not only like call a bang bang play, but at the same time do a mental trajectory of where the receiver would have been if he hadn't been held, right? Like you can't hold a ref to that unless we're going to institute some crazy like instant replay where all refs are wearing VR goggles or something. But which could maybe is a possibility in 20 years from now. But yeah, there was another play. I don't remember if it was this game or the next game that we're going to be talking about. But there was another play where there was a defensive PI on a ball that was wildly uncatchable. And I don't think the rule is what I'm saying, but I think the rule should be that if the ball is not catchable, it should not be a spot of the foul penalty. It should just be either a 10 or 15 yards, decide which one is the most fair.
I think the rule is that. I think it's 5 yards.
No, but we get 5 yards for a holding call.
Oh. Wait,
But
but I thought the
you
rule.
only get a holding call if the holding occurs before the ball is thrown.
Wait, but I thought the rule is what you said, which is if it's not catchable, then they don't get spotted with the foul.
Well, so maybe that's true. I could be wrong about that being the rule, but even if I am wrong, it's not enforced well. There's
Okay.
lots of balls that are thrown that are not catchable that are then called spot of the foul penalties. So that's something that should be really easy for refs to call correctly, or at least in conference, which we have seen this year so far. Refs conferencing more and actually certain calls being overturned. Have you noticed that? There's
I
certain
noticed.
refs that are coming back and saying, like, after conference, we changed blah 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 call to something
Yeah.
else, or we removed the foul. And I think that's a step in the right direction to the accountability that we have been shouting for a long time. It's probably not going to go far enough, but hopefully over time it will. Um, so did you have anything else to say on this Rams Bills game?
No.
I did have one more thing I wanted to say, and that is that I didn't know that 12-year-olds were allowed to play in the NFL and put their bodies on the line like that.
What?
Josh Allen is 12 years old, and man, he was putting his body on the line. If I was a coach, I would have had a heart attack every single time he ran the ball. He was not afraid to run into defenders.
Well, he's also like 6'5", 240, but I get it.
Well, with the face of a 12-year-old. All right, so our third game of the week, our second highlight game, for that matter, is Packers at Saints. The Packers take this one 37-30. There's a couple of plays / rules that Joseph and I wanted to talk about on this one. I'll let Joseph lead off with this one as well and kind of bring up the plays he thought were interesting, and then we'll do a back and forth.
Well, first, I want to start off with congratulations to Drew Brees. That was his 94th game with 3 or more throwing touchdowns, which is now a record. He passes Peyton Manning. And compared to his total games played, that means that just over a third of his games he throws for 3 or more touchdowns. Pretty impressive. So I'm not going to have the right order here. You might have the best order, but I want to speak to Beast Mode 2.0.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness. So the Alvin Kamara play. I forgot what quarter that was in. Was that fourth quarter? You said fourth quarter?
The 49-yard touchdown run?
Yes.
Yeah, that was fourth quarter, I believe.
So Drew Brees is looking to pass deep and he can't find anyone, so he throws it out to Kamara, and I thought he was going to get blown up right there, with like a 1-yard gain, but he evades the tackle, which he's very good at doing, and then evades another tackle. The next thing you know, he's just kind of like jogging because one of the offensive linemen is sprinting down the field. And what I love about what Kamara did is Kamara let him block. Kamara slowed down to let his offensive lineman block for him, which he then used to hurl over another player. And he was absolutely genius. I have every confidence that the cool observations we can make that Kamara was doing in his mind, I think this was genius, to where he lets the offensive lineman block in front of him. As he's jumping over the player that kind of dropped down low by the offensive lineman player, he jumps back in bounds, angling, so that when he lands, he knows he's going to get hit by the Packer. So that when he gets hit, he doesn't get pushed out of bounds, and is able to keep running. It was genius.
Yeah.
So that play was just, I have every full confidence that Kamara, that was going through his head on how he's going to run that ball. He's very dangerous in the open field, and they did a special segment showing like some of the special training he does, be agile, like unique training he does for strengths and agility. So one of the best runs after the catch I've ever seen, and just an awesome play. He had a great game overall too, so that was fun. And then go ahead, keep going. We'll save the 4th and 1 for the end.
Okay, so there was a just horrendous horse collar foul on a Saints defender who was dragging down a Packer runner. And this was actually egregious for two reasons. One, there was a horse collar called on a Saints defender that was pulling the jersey down halfway down the back of the ball carrier. Just horrendous. And you could even see, like, from the sideline, which is where the referee should be, you could see it clearly in the replay. So that was horrendous. And then not only that, but the ball carrier was grabbing the face mask, which is also illegal, of the defender. So it was a call that was not only wrong, but called in the wrong direction. And it's plays like that where you're like, when they are called and they're wrong, then you have the chance to, there should be an opportunity to overturn. When they're not called, it's tough to do anything about it. In this case, the right call wasn't called and the wrong call was called. And I've stood by this for years, that all 15-yard penalties should be automatically reviewed so that we don't run into issues like this. The next play was there was a PI on the defender that was covering the tight end, the Packers tight end, Tyler Irving. And on that play, the tight end catches the ball after an arguably a push off, arguably not. That can be debated. But it was a scoring play, so he caught it for the touchdown, fell into the end zone. And all scoring plays are reviewed. We know this. That's an established fact, and referees hold true to that. But one thing that the people on the TV said, I sound like such a lame NFL layman when I say that. The commentators, that's more official. The commentators said that, there was no OPI called in that case, right? So the fact is there's no OPI called in that case. And the commentators were debating whether or not it was legitimately an OPI, although there's got to have been a push-off if that was the result of the play. And then they said, well, it's a scoring play, but they can't review the OPI. And I thought, well, maybe they're wrong, but I hope they're wrong, because if there's a scoring play, it makes all the more sense that if there's a penalty on a scoring play, that it's that much more important for the refs to check to make sure there was no foul play on that scoring play, right? So, yeah. Again, this is another one of those, I'm not 100% sure what the rule is, if refs are actually allowed to look for potential flags when they look at a replay of a scoring play. My guess is they're probably not. Knowing the flexibility of the NFL rulebook, I would imagine that they're probably not allowed to do that, retroactively apply a foul in that case. But that would be one thing to look at, because, we've seen people cheat into the end zone, and it's another easy win for the NFL to change rule to allow refs to look at that in replay. So why don't you go ahead and talk about the 4th and 1, because this is just, if the two things I already talked about were not good enough, this one is going to take the cake.
Yeah, before that, though, two more things. Then we'll have to wrap it up on this, because this is the thing that's frustrating. So first thing is Taysom Hill. Again, Saints, why aren't you listening to our podcast and taking our advice? You can't have Taysom Hill have 1 reception target and 2 rushes and think that's okay. And also not think, I wonder if the defense is going to wonder if he's going to be used with the ball somehow. So some of those plays did not go well. One was a fumble. One, he did not. It was 3rd and 3 in the second quarter, and it was snapped to him. It was just so it was shovel pass it was a pass from Breeze, but it was just like obvious he was going to get the ball, and they didn't convert. So again, use Hill in more plays. Either have him there taking a snap or involved in the snap, but not involved in the play, so as to decrease his percentage of plays to confuse the defense, or come up with better trick plays, because what you're doing with him is not good enough. And then lastly, before this crazy 4th and 1, Aaron Rodgers, the greatest quarterback on the run of all time. My goodness. The throw that he made to Alan Lazard down to the 2-yard line, it's disgusting. Absolutely. I didn't realize until they showed the view where it's like looking down the field towards the end zone, where you can actually appreciate how difficult that throw was. In the typical view of the game, you're not able to see enough of the lateral movement, and it's hard to realize that the fields are 50 yards wide. But when you watch the view where they have it looking down towards the end zone, and you see the running that Rodgers did and how he just like turns his body and then plants and throws it 55 yards in the air, going against the run, perfect bullseye to Lazard. It's incredible. It's one of the greatest throws I've ever seen. And he had more of these great throws. So Aaron Rodgers, you're an all-time great, and you are undoubtedly the greatest quarterback on the run. But who knows? Maybe in 10 years, Mahomes will catch up. Okay, here we go. 4th and 1. So it's in the 4th quarter. There's about 13 minutes left. Packers have the ball. They rush up the middle. And just on the first live view, it's clear they did not get the first down. Clear. Maybe it's turnover on downs by inches, maybe a foot. No, guys, it was so much worse than that. When you see the replay, the ball spot was off by a yard. Even the commentators, and they had Terry, they had one of the ex-refs or ref experts be like, yeah, I don't know what's going on here. He was off. The ball spot was off by a yard. They gave him the first down. So then Sean Payton had to throw a challenge flag, and it was reviewed and just so obvious, and they reversed it. So that is unacceptable. When it's close, I get it, but there was no way of thinking this was a close call. And now Payton has to lose a challenge, potentially loses a challenge in order for this to happen. And you wonder, well, how do you lose a challenge? Well, you get 2 challenges, and if you get both right, you get a 3rd one. Well, he should have never used this challenge in the first place, because if he did use the second challenge later in the 4th quarter and he got it wrong, he would have gotten the 3rd challenge, which would have really been his second one if he never got to use this one in the first place. He should have never used the challenge. These things should be reviewed as well, or we need to figure out a better way for ball spots, because it's embarrassing. Yes, refs, you should be embarrassed that you were getting it wrong by an entire yard and changed. I mean, granted, the Packers still won the game, but at that moment, it was not yet decided. So shame on you. Figure this out. Jeremy, how can we figure this out? But first, give your reaction.
It was, if not the worst, it was in the top 3 worst ball spots that I've ever seen in the last, whatever it is, 9 or so years I've been watching football regularly. And we have made a point on this show to rag on any refs that are unable to decide to put on their glasses that day, because it was so far off. I don't know what the actual answer is. I would think that with the NFL's billions of dollars, they could hire some engineers to figure out what to do. I mean, at a minimum, you'd think there could be some sort of, position sensor that they could either weave into the fabric of the football or something to make it so that it doesn't change the outside geometry or the mass of the football or the shape, right? I'm not saying it's an easy fix from an engineering standpoint, but there certainly is a fix in some way. And it's plays like this where it's like, I mean, at least it didn't actually result in a first down, right? Like at least when they did challenge it, it was overturned, which, if they hadn't been, then maybe I would start to feel a little sorry for the Saints. But I completely agree with Joseph that the challenge issue is an issue, and it's just ridiculous that he had to challenge that play that should have been just a drop in the bucket call for any ref looking at the field that's actually paying attention to the field. And I'm sure whoever that ref was probably is going to get demoted from that squad. I mean, that was really bad, really bad. They won't get fined. Of course, there's going to be very little accountability other than that he might get demoted to a different squad. That maybe that squad is the squad that's gonna ref the Broncos Jets game of the year game on Thursday. That's where he deserves to go, I think.
Yeah, when you fail, you go to some kind of version of like a Browns Bengals Jets game.
Yes, exactly. It's like you get your pick. You get to choose this 0-7 team going against this 2-5 team, or this, whatever. So I was going to make one last comment about this game before we move on to our next segment, and that is, so at the very end of the game, the Saints were down by 10 points, 37-27. They drove down the field. They were at like the 20-25 on the Packers side. 35 seconds left in the fourth quarter. First down. They kick the field goal to get within a touchdown, 37-30. I was a little confused by that call because, and remember, I'm smarter than Sean Payton and I know more than him about football, so please listen to me right now. It seems like if it's hard to get to the opponent's 20, right? We can all agree that getting to the opponent's 20 is harder than getting to their 40 or 38, which is roughly the field goal range for most kickers. If you get that far and you also need a touchdown because you're behind by 10 points, it makes sense that they would go for the touchdown on the next 1 to 2 plays, making sure their receivers get out of bounds if they don't make it on the first play, etc., to get the touchdown when you're more likely to be able to get it. And then, given that they're going to have to do an onside kick anyway because they didn't have timeouts left and the Packers were going to get the ball back with 35 seconds left, so that's just one kneel down. You'd think that on the onside kick, if they succeed in an onside kick that they have to do, that then they would do the field goal, because usually if you recover an onside kick, you're maybe 10 at most 15 yards from field goal range, which is, for an offense like the Saints, which they're pretty confident in their offense, that's 1 or 2 plays. The way Alvin Kamara was playing, Emmanuel Sanders, like that's a totally likely even possibility that they would be able to do that with the time that they had. So I just didn't understand the math behind that, because the reverse of that is you kick the field goal like they did, and then their onside kick, they would have had to score a touchdown.
With like 25, 28 seconds left. No
right,
timeouts.
with at the 50 instead of at the 20, right, which is much harder to do. So I just didn't. Do you have any insight into that? Do you agree, disagree? Is there something I'm missing?
So I agree with you, and I felt odd watching it. I was like, wait, doesn't they be getting the touchdown? I didn't make the connection that you did, but my gut was like, this doesn't seem right. I get that they just want to get the points and go, but so I probably was subconscious said, but I didn't make the full connection while watching the game. But especially with no timeouts, no timeouts, you get the ball with under 30 seconds left and they have to score a touchdown. No, you get the touchdown first if you can. Because you're right. Let's say you get 2 or 3 shots in the end zone. Now you're kicking the onside kick with 20 seconds-ish left. You get the ball. All you need really is 1 or 2 quick plays for the kick. So, yeah, it makes sense to try to get to the end zone first.
Yeah, so the moral of the story is that Sean Payton should get fired, and either Joseph and I should be hired in his place and make millions of dollars every year to make really good decisions like that. Okay, so those were our 3 games of the week. Awesome discussion this week. Great stuff to talk about. Amazingly horrible calls. I always love. That's probably one of my favorite things about this show, is when we get to point out the horrendous inconsistencies in some of the rules. So our next segment is Who Wrecked Face This Week, brought to you by a handful of quarterbacks and some other things. Joseph's going to lead us off with the quarterbacks and a couple of special wrecking of face, and then I will finish off with receivers and running backs.
All right, so first we have Josh Allen, 24 for 33 with 311 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a pick, though that pick wasn't a real pick, as we discussed earlier. and a rushing touchdown. Patrick Mahomes, 31 of 42, 385 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Also had 26 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. And we're almost getting tired, well, we are, of hearing this man's name on the show. Russell Wilson, 27 of 40 for 315, 5 touchdowns, and no picks. Next, we have the New England Patriots and their rushing. They were 38 for 250 and 2 touchdowns. That's a 6.6 average. Next up is another team and their rushing, but they are the ones that got wrecked and not the wrecking themselves. The Houston Texans. Yes, they had a rushing touchdown. Their longest rushing attempt was 5 yards. They were 15 for 29. That's
Oof.
a 1.9 average. That's abysmal. The Steelers wrecked them. And then lastly, Steven Gostkowski. I don't think I got that right, but yeah, Steven Gostkowski from the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah.
He was 6 for 6 with his field goals, including the one that ended up being the game winner, the last scoring of the game. But what's special here is not only was he 6 for 6, 3 of those field goals were from 50 or plus yards, a 51, a 54, and a 55. How about that?
Is he still with the Patriots?
No, Titans.
Oh, he's with the Titans. Okay.
Yeah.
I think he for the longest time was a Patriot, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Do you know what percentage of the rushing yards were Newton's?
He only had 27. They're mostly Michelle and Burkhead.
Okay. So running backs, I've got Dalvin Cook, 22 carries for 181 yards, which is an 8.2 average and a touchdown. I do have to mention he did fumble once, but those are amazing numbers. Justin Jefferson from Minnesota, 7 for 9, 7 catches on 9 attempts for 175 yards and a touchdown. Look at his picture on ESPN. He is wearing a suit like he is going to high school prom. It's amazing. Alvin Kamara, who you might guess this by watching, but I don't know, was responsible for 50% of the Saints' offensive yards against the Packers, was 13 carries for 139 yards, 2 touchdowns, 13 catches for 139 yards, 2 touchdowns, rushing 6 carries for 58 yards on a 9.7 average. So, wow. And then honorable mention, just because Joseph and I love Russell Wilson so much, is Aldon Smith, who, welcome back to the league, sacked Russell Wilson 3 times in the Dallas loss to the Seahawks on Sunday. Okay. Our next segment, we typically do either some kind of news article or story. This week, we're going to talk about a rule. We spent our theme this week is kind of rules in the game, and we wanted to continue that by talking about one additional rule which popped up in a game that wasn't one of our 3 games of the week, and that is in the Seahawks Cowboys game. There was a play where DK Metcalf caught a ball. There was a defender running pretty close behind him. He strolled into the end zone, but right before he got there, right before the ball broke the plane, the defender came up behind him, punched the ball out, and it went flying back out the back of the end zone. And by NFL rule, that is a touchback. I have never understood that. We've seen this before. There was a devastating loss. I remember this vividly where Calvin Johnson caught a ball and Earl Thomas punched it out at like the half-yard line, and it went flying out the back, and it was a touchback, and it would have been the go-ahead touchdown, I think, in a year where Seattle only won the division by 1 game. So you can understand why, of course, I have some bias in this, but objectively, this rule has never made sense to me. And Joseph, I don't think it's ever made sense to you either. Can you make any sense of why this is a rule?
So the only thing I could think of is that what they're trying to deter is going towards the end zone and you intentionally fumble to give an opportunity for your teammate to score a touchdown. But here's the thing. It's not like they actually punish that. Right? If you fumble in the end zone and your teammate picks it up, it's a touchdown. So if that was the case, if that was the deterrent, then it's like saying, hey, we're going to punish you for trying to do something that we don't like. But if you do the thing that we don't like, we're not going to punish you. So that's the best thing I can come up with. Outside of that, it makes no sense.
Well, but couldn't they just say that if let's say you fumble at the 1 intentionally and it goes into the end zone and one of your players picks it up and gets a touchdown, they just call a penalty and say, you know, you either say like intentional fumble or something like that, or just say, no, we're just going to put the ball where it was fumbled.
Yeah, and outside of having to make the judgment call of what's an intentional fumble or not, overall it hurts more than it helps. And it's like, if you're going towards your end zone, like with Metcalf, that was like a 70-yard play. Don't punish the guy. Yeah, he's a Seahawk, but don't punish the guy. and the Seahawks, like, put the ball at the 1-yard line. No, why not? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, because if they put it at the 1-yard line, they're not rewarding the team for they're not punishing the defender for getting the fumble, because it means the defender is protecting against a touchdown, right? So the defender did his job. The offense is getting rewarded for getting the ball that far and is just stopped from going any further. It's the same thing that happens when a ball is fumbled out of on the sideline, right? Whoever had control of it last just gets it where it went out of bounds. I don't understand why they can't do an equivalent rule, a symmetric rule for the end zone. It doesn't make any sense to me. So NFL, change your rules. I'll be looking for it next year. All right. Our 5th segment of the night is Commentators Say the Darndest Things. I've just got one for you tonight. This was Michael Strahan during the halftime show, whatever you want to call it, of the Niners-Giants game, which we don't talk about the Niners anymore consistently, but man, was that a romp. Michael Strahan said, referencing Daniel Jones, who was the quarterback for the Giants, who was struggling in that game, he said, the one thing you want to do as a QB is help your team win.
It's a shame they have to pay him so much money to be able to say that, Jeremy.
I know. Why can't they pay me to say even like slightly more intelligible things, right?
You'll take it for half the money.
Yeah, I know, and that would still be way more than I'm making now. Okay, our final segment of the night is our predictions. We're going to start off with our tricky picks. So Joseph and I are still tied after our 2 weeks of doing these picks, this new mini segment. We're 7-4-2 on the season. This last week we were 2-0-2, which, yes, you heard me right, 2-0-2. Joseph, you're going to have to explain those ties to me.
Yeah, so first of all, we had to scrap a game because it was brought to my attention that you can't have Christian McCaffrey in one of our picks when Christian McCaffrey's on IR. So the 2 ties, where are they at? One of the picks was who will have the higher combination of receptions and touchdowns. It was DK Metcalf and CeeDee Lamb. So Metcalf had 4 receptions and 1 touchdown. That's 5. And CeeDee Lamb had 5 receptions. That's 5. So they tied there.
I see. Okay.
And then the other tie was for our tricky pick special. We had the 5 cool picks for the 4 quarterbacks in the 2 games. So in those 5 picks, Jeremy and I were abysmal. We were each 1-4. And so we tied. So there's the second point because it's only worth 1 point. So 2-0-2.
Wait, but shouldn't it be 2-1-1 since we got it wrong?
No. It's the winner of. Not necessarily we got it wrong. The 5 picks in the tricky pick.
Right, we only got one of them correct. right? One out of
Yeah, but
5.
we're competing against each other. Whoever gets the most of those 5 right gets a point. But so we tied. So it should be.
We tied in that we both lost, right? So I thought that
Well,
would mean that we would be 2-1-1 then, right? Because we got one
no,
wrong.
the difference is, well, we got 4 wrong.
Right, but we
And
said originally it was only going to count as 1 point, though, potentially, right?
so yeah, I think we should call it a tie because we tied in the number of how many we got right or wrong. It doesn't matter. It's the same, right? 1 and 4. And so we tied in the special. Therefore, we tied that special pick overall. That's the way I'm going to go with it. I think.
All right, we need to call Mike Pereira. Can we get Mike
Yeah.
Pereira on the line, please? Okay, yeah, we'll have to reevaluate our method for doing that in the future, but we can let that slide for now. So 2-0-2.
I already made the method. It's here. It's good. So.
Well, I thought we agreed to something else last week, so we'll argue over that. Hold our friendship hostage offline
Again.
over that one. All right, so read us off our new tricky picks for the week.
All right. Cleveland at Dallas. Who will have more combined rushing? Sorry, total. Who will have combined total touchdowns and 10-yard plays, rushing or receiving? Nick Chubb or Ezekiel Elliott?
Nick Chubb.
Okay. Second, as I mark these, I want to go back and do the work I did before. Okay. Steelers at Titans.
Wait, who are you picking?
Sorry, Ezekiel Elliott.
Okay.
Steelers at Titans. Which will be higher? TJ Watt's tackle for loss or Derrick Henry's rushing touchdowns plus 20-yard runs?
I think Derrick Henry's rushing touchdowns plus 20-yard runs will be more.
All right. The interesting thing about that is that you can get half a tackle for loss, so we may end up with a weird, 2.5 versus 3 kind of thing. Atlanta at Green Bay. Which quarterback will have the most receivers with 40-plus receiving yards?
Wait, so then if he rushes for 10 yards, do I get half a point?
No.
Okay, sorry. What was that pick? I'm trying to find a loophole here.
Atlanta at Green Bay. Which quarterback will have more receivers with 40-plus receiving yards? Rodgers or Ryan?
Rodgers.
Okay, I went Ryan.
I thought you were going to say which quarterback will choke more, and then that one would have been too easy.
The Falcons. Didn't the Falcons? Wasn't it another 28 point deficit?
Oh, in front of the Bears.
Bears.
I don't think it was that steep, but it was. They definitely gave up a lead.
All right, give me 15 seconds. I'm gonna figure this out. Countdown for me here.
All right, so I am trying to call Mike Pereira. I'm still upset about this. I still need to hear this. That we still need to debate this tie thing because I think the math doesn't work out in Joseph's favor. But we'll discuss that offline, like I said. And Mike Pereira will be the tiebreaker.
Yeah, 26-10, 16 points. Still inexcusable because it was 16 points going to the fourth quarter.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Last one. Now, I made this before the Niners decided to score 36 points with a backup quarterback. This one was intentionally supposed to be humorous, and I should have made this against the Giants. So we have another tricky pick special. So moving forward, you're going to go with high rules as canon. That is, if we tie the tricky pick, then we tie in a point. We'll have to debate this for week 5 because we have to do this now. So, Eagles at Niners, tricky pick special. I thought that, what happens when a team loses their quarterback and a running back and doesn't have a wide receiver? Oh, and doesn't have their tight end. What's something that they do a lot? They kick the ball. They punt or they kick. and it's not like the Eagles are the best team either. So my tricky pick special is pretty much poking fun at the Niners and Eagles on how many kicks and punts they'll have. So here we go. What will be in this both teams? What will be the highest attempted field goal? Above 54 yards or 54 yards or lower? Attempted field goal.
I think there will be a field goal above 54.
All right. Highest field goal made, 49 or higher, lower than 49. Sorry, 49 or higher, lower than 49.
49 or higher.
Okay, I went with 49 or lower. Oh, by the way, I went with the same pick.
So the irony, I will not let the audience escape the irony on this, which is that the 49ers didn't punt on Sunday, which they have not done in a game since like the 1990s. So just want to throw that out there.
Which is interesting because that'll come up here in a minute. Okay. How many field goals will be made combined? 6 or more, less than 6?
Less than 6.
Okay, I did 6 or more. Will there be a punt 59 yards or more?
Ooh. I need to look up my punting encyclopedia on this one. Will there be a and that's excuse me for my rust, but is that net yards or initial yards, like where the kick lands?
No, they include the roll. So if it rolls, they include the roll on the punt.
Right, but net yards would be like if there's a 50-yard punt and a 10-yard return, you net 40.
No. That the return something different. It's a different stat. So we're talking just the punt.
I thought they did net yards too. I thought they listed yards and net yards. Anyway, so but you're just talking about the raw kick, right?
Yes.
Okay, so if there will be one more than 59 yards, no.
One more. Okay, same here. And then first team to 3 punts, Niners or Eagles?
Eagles.
I'm going Niners. All right, so picks. Go ahead.
Okay. All right, so this last week I was 10-5-1, with the tie being the Bengals at Eagles game. They tied at 23. Joseph was 9-6-1, bringing our season percentages thus far to me at 70.2% and Joseph at 59.6%. We do not count the tie in the total for that percentage. Okay, so the 4 games that we were different on were Bears, Falcons, Titans, Vikings, Bengals, Eagles, Packers, Saints. I got 2 of those 4, and one of them was a tie, and Joseph got 1 of the 4, and one of was a tie, which is why I beat him by 1. So for week 4, I'll start us off with Broncos at Jets. I'm going Broncos.
Same. And then we have Colts at Bears, going Bears.
Same. Jaguars at Bengals. He's overrated, but I'm going with Joe Burrow on this one.
When I finally pick the Bengals and want to get their win, you pick him as well? That's ridiculous. You can't do that.
I can do that.
I'm going Bengals.
It is canon that I can do that. Okay. Browns at Cowboys. I'm going Cowboys.
Same. Saints at Lions, going Saints.
Same. Although that was actually kind of a tough one. Believe it or not. Steelers at Titans. I'm going Steelers.
Same here. Seattle at Miami. Okay.
This isn't the week to do it, man. I got to tell you, I got to talk you off the ledge. This isn't the week to do it.
So some of you might think, Joseph, you're like 6 games behind Jeremy. You can't throw in the towel now. It's only week 3. There's plenty of time to catch up. Don't you remember last year, Joseph? Don't you remember you were down by like 10 games with like 3 weeks left, and you had 3 12-win weeks in a row, and you caught up and beat Jeremy? Don't you remember that? Yes, I do remember that, audience. but this is the week that Russell Wilson is contained, and Fitz magic will go off again. So I'm going Miami.
Okay, and I'll just say for the record that I will happily allow Joseph to catch up a game on this one because the Seahawks need to start losing. So
Exactly. See,
I'm going Seahawks. So Joseph, you're officially going Dolphins on this one, correct? Okay, so we're different. We differ on that one. That's our first difference. I don't remember who's reading next, so I'll just do it. Chargers at Bucks. I'm going Bucks.
Same. Ravens at Washington. Ravens.
Same. You should do an over under on the number of times that we're gonna pick the football team to win a game this year.
Unless they're playing their practice squad, I don't
see. Cardinals at Panthers. This was a really tough one, but I'm going Panthers.
Ooh, I'm going Cardinals.
Okay, I figured you would.
McCaffrey's still out, and Bridgewater's not gonna. I mean, who knows? Bridgewater is gonna throw for 5,000 yards and 40
in
touchdowns.
This game alone.
So, in order for him to get up to that pace, he's gonna have to throw for like 600 yards and 7 touchdowns today for that game. So,
that's
we'll
realistic.
See. Minnesota at Houston, a tough one. This is probably the toughest one. I'm going Houston. I think Deshaun Watson gets it done.
I am a believer in the same things. I also picked Texans on this one. Okay. Giants at Rams. I'm going Rams.
Rams, because the Giants are abysmal.
They are.
New England at Chiefs. Actually a little tougher than I thought because the home field advantage doesn't matter as much. But after seeing Mahomes the other night, Chiefs.
Same. I do wonder how well the Chiefs are going to be able to handle that rushing offense, though.
Yeah.
They seem to be good against the pass, but not necessarily as good against the run. Like looking at what Jackson was able to do, so we'll see. It should be hopefully a better game than that garbage Chiefs at Ravens game that we picked for game of the week. I'm also going Chiefs on that one. Bills at Raiders. I'm going Bills.
Yep, same here. Still hot on the Bills. Keep going. And then Eagles at Niners. Going Niners.
Same. And
they'll win by a bunch of field goals.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Last one. Falcons at Packers. I'm going Packers. Okay, so we're only differ on 2. Seahawks at Dolphins and Cardinals at Panthers. I have a feeling we're going to split those. So we'll see.
which is kind of lame because I need to pick up games. So I'm either going to split or pick up 2 games.
Yeah. You're 5 behind, by the way. So 2 games, you can cut into that by almost half. All right, so we agreed that our game of the week this week is going to be Vikings at Texans. Is this the game where Watson gets it done or where Kirk Cousins decides that he finally wants to play football? We'll see. So without further ado, that's a wrap. If you enjoyed tonight's episode or any of our past episodes, please like, share, and subscribe here on YouTube, as those are free ways for you to support our show. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at The Practice Squad and at Neuralizer_. Just as a reminder, if you've missed past episodes, you can watch or listen to them right here on my YouTube channel. The show is online immediately after we go live, so if you missed any of our foolish banter, you can always rewind and start from the beginning. As always, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Lakers in 5.